So, a different topic.
A different topic. Good morning.
Different topic.
It's our
Good
first
morning, John.
It's our first morning show. That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
I think. Does that mean we can join the ranks of like Fox and Friends or Morning Joe? No.
No. I am not a morning person. We're not. This is still in the test setup.
Category.
It's streaming live today. Yeah, we're still in the testing category. We're streaming live today.
Yeah, we're live. How weird is that?
It would be weirder if we actually had an audience.
Well, it's about to be weird.
You think you're gonna have some people show up?
I'm gonna send it to some people right now.
Well, that's cool. I mean, I don't mind having an audience. I'm just saying it would be weird if we had a regular audience that was looking for us and we had to do this on a regular basis, which is one of my goals with this. Don't get me wrong. Yeah, that would be awesome. If we had to set out time like Saturday or Sunday evenings to record this podcast so that we could do live at the same time every week, I would be stoked. That would be just awesome because that would mean that we have an audience that is looking for us to go live and would be pissed if we weren't live at the right time.
Yeah, that's true.
And nothing would almost nothing would make me happier. I mean, I do have 4 kids. They can make me pretty damn proud and happy at many times. But
yeah. So I have permission from my wife Kate to include her and our child's name. So
I guess I need to get permission from all the legal aged people in my house and make an agreement with my wife about the underaged people in my house.
Right. Yeah, that'd be good. Man, I had this wild dream. Let me tell you about this. This is completely unrelated to our show, I guess, but it's a different topic.
It's a topic,
yeah. So
yeah.
Years and years ago, I had this. This is only twice in memory has this ever happened to me where I've woken up from a dream with like emitting some kind of sound, like screaming myself awake. This has only ever happened twice.
Okay.
And this particular time, it was because of this one nightmare. And I remember it so clearly. So I'm standing in the backyard of this really nice ranch style house. And there's a pool back there. It's nighttime. And I'm in the backyard. I'm facing the house. And I can see across the street from the house is like a tree line. And so I'm looking at this tree line over the top of the house from the back. And there is this just giant fireball explosion that starts coming up from behind the trees, like back in the tree line. And so I see this happening and there's no sound or anything. It's just this fireball, this huge explosion rising up from there. And, you know, it's lighting up the house and the yard that I'm standing in. And so some fire starts kind of making its way toward the house. And so I think I need to flee. Right. So I run through the backyard and into the garage and get in this car. But for some reason, the car is right side drive. So I get in what is normally the passenger seat. And
so you're in England is what or Australia is what you're telling me.
Whatever it is, it's weird, right? So I get in the right side and I start driving. I pull out of the garage, pull out onto the street, and there are these streetlights that I can see, and they're on both sides of the road. And so I'm driving, and the car is I'm driving around this corner, this really gentle kind of left-hand curve. And I can still see the neighborhood is lit up from this fireball that's in the sky. And the streetlights start getting dimmer and dimmer. And I started becoming aware of someone else or like some kind of entity in the car with me. in the passenger seat to my left. And I kind of become aware of it, but I can't see it. It's just this like shadow creature, this like shadow being that's just in the passenger seat. And so I start talking to it, and I'm like, what's happening? I can't see. It's like, it's getting harder to see. I can't see. And this voice that was like a male voice and a female voice at the same time kind of comes out of this presence in the passenger seat and says, the more important question is, why don't you have a face? And
what?
I woke up making this like, making this really bizarre sound, and it was just awful. It was just a horrifying experience, because it felt like my face was melting off. Like in the dream, like it felt like my face was just sagging and drooping, and everything was getting darker and darker and darker. And then this thing is like, the more important question is, why don't you have a face? Scared the hell out of me.
Wow.
It was a bad time.
So, okay. That is interesting. I think I have something that may be a little bit more unexplainable. I don't know.
Unexplainable? It was,
yeah,
what I had was a dream. It's perfectly explainable.
Yeah, no, yours is explainable.
It means nothing at all.
Well.
Oh, don't tell me
Dream
you're one of
theory
those ones
and all.
about people who, you're not one of those people, right? Like dreams tell you things about your life.
I mean, not about your life, but they do tend to, not all of them, but some of them do tend to be influenced by your emotions. So they can give you insight on what you're feeling before you go to sleep. But
okay,
that's all. Anyways, so here's one that's a story that's really weird to me, anyways. So I was sleeping in my mom's old house. So it would have been when I was about 17 or 18. And my wife, who was my girlfriend at the time, was in the bed with me when I had this dream. And what happened in the dream was I was in a house. I don't even know what house. The layout was completely unfamiliar to me in real life, but in the dream, I knew the layout pretty well. I mean, like, I knew where the kitchen was. I knew around this one corner was the bedroom, all of that good stuff. But in the dream, I started noticing like eyes looking out from dark areas. And
you mean like like cartoon eyes where they're like glowing in the darkness in the woods?
More like glowing yellow animal eyes, not so much cartoony. But,
okay, like cat's eyes, gleaming in the light, like that kind of thing.
Yeah, that sort of thing.
Okay.
And then I would hear like this little chittering laughter.
Ugh.
Yeah. And so I went into this one room for some reason, and I turned around and there's like a bunch of little gremlins coming towards me. So I closed the door and lock it. Yeah, no, I can't even describe the look of them. They're not like gremlins from the movie Gremlin or anything I've seen in pop culture or drawings or anything else. I don't know where I got this imagery from. But so I locked myself in this room, and they're like pounding on this door and about to get through. So I go to try and get into the bathroom that is on this room, and they get through the door and they just swarm me, and they take off the bathroom door that I'm hanging on to, and then they separate it from me, and they're starting to carry me out of the room. And so I feel their little hands all over the back of my body.
Oh God. Ugh.
And about then I wake up, and here's where the strange part comes in. I still feel their hands on my body when I wake up, and then I drop onto the bed.
Oh man. Yeah. You had a sleep paralysis experience.
But I literally dropped onto the bed.
No, you didn't.
I swear to you,
Nope.
I felt the bounce of the bed underneath.
Yep, you sure did. That's a really common thing that happens with sleep paralysis. So the people, they have this experience that it's tested in labs, right? So they do these sleep experiments where they have people come in and they sleep, and or sleep studies, sorry, where they have people come in and sleep, and they just monitor them, right? Like what is, talk about your rapid eye movement, brain activity, right, and that kind of thing. And people have in the lab expressed that they had some kind of dream where they were levitating, or they fell off a building, or something like that. And when they woke up, they felt the bed bounce like they were floating above their bed, but they weren't. That's a very common sleep paralysis experience.
Okay, well, it felt genuinely authentic to me, and I hadn't heard of that study, so
yeah,
but it was really freaky.
Really bizarre. There's I'm not super up on my neuroscience, so I don't know, I can't remember all the names of all the terms for this stuff, but there's an experience that people have when they I completely lost my train of thought. It doesn't matter. Well, I started thinking about something else, and while I was talking, and it made me forget what I was talking about.
I hate when that happens.
Oh man.
Well, hey,
we were talking about sleep paralysis. Yeah, it's gone. I don't know what it was. Sorry.
Well,
sorry,
okay.
Everyone.
So a different topic.
Yeah.
Actually, let me go over the topics list that we have set up right now.
Okay.
If the sperm that fertilizes the egg is just random in that one moment, then alternate universes wouldn't have alternate versions of us. They'd have completely different people. I got that from a shower thought on Reddit.
You had a shower thought about sperm.
No. I got that off of shower thoughts.
Oh, so
on Reddit.
We're stealing someone else's content.
Yes, we're stealing someone else's content, but I can't link back to it. I can't find that back in my Reddit history. Who am I kidding? Anyways, but it's from Reddit. It's from some Reddit user somewhere. I don't know, but I saw it, and at least I'm saying that it's from Reddit, so somebody can search it if they want to.
So restate it. It's this idea that an alternative universe, you wouldn't be you. How does it say it again?
Let's get into that in just a second, because what's funny is the next topic is eggs. Are they the devil?
Are they the devil? Yeah.
But anyways, so
I have some
let's
input
get
on
into
that actually. So I'm eager to have the egg conversation.
I thought you actually might. So I thought it was funny when I put it in the topics list, but I'm like, hey, we might actually talk about that. Let's talk about the shower thought that somebody had on Reddit.
Sure.
About the sperm alternate universe theories.
Yeah. So can you reread it? Read it one more time.
Okay, so if the sperm that fertilizes the egg is just random in that one moment, then alternate universes wouldn't have alternate versions of us. They'd have completely different people.
Okay.
But that's not necessarily true.
Yeah, so we need to unpack that a lot.
Yeah, a lot.
The part of that bothers me is if the concept of random, that it says, if it's random, so, and then it makes a statement. So like,
right.
There's no, that person didn't satisfy the need for, I don't know how to say, what am I trying to say here?
Well, even if that's the case,
you can't hypothesize. You can't come up with a solution to a problem that you don't know exists. So he said, like, here's an unsolved problem that may be true in this way. So that doesn't really get us anywhere. So I guess the first thing I'd want to unpack is this idea of randomness when it comes to the sperm fertilizing an egg. All
right. Well, what I'm thinking is, what in what's stated here, it's somewhat true in that assuming random probability of sperm fertilization, then yes, in alternate universes, it's possible that there would be there would be completely different people. But if alternate universes exist because of variations of chance, then it's actually likely that there's both different people and universes completely filled with the same people with just different choices that those people have made. Every contingency would have to have been covered by alternate universes.
Well,
Uh,
so are we working under the assumption then that if alternate universes exist, that there are an infinite number of them?
that would be the assumption there, yes. But then there's
Okay.
there's that it's an assumption, so
Mm-hmm.
you have to build out the rules in which you're talking about alternate universes, right? I mean, it's got to be, in what framework are you talking about alternate universes? What are the rules of the alternate universes? Because we
Yeah.
don't have any proof of alternate universes. We don't have
Right.
any rules that are natural that we have observed in alternate universes. So it's not like we can go and say, "Oh, well, no, this is how alternate universes work." Duh, you're an idiot for saying that, because
Right.
that doesn't, there aren't
So if
rules.
we're going to talk about
it's
it,
science fiction.
we have to set up some rules in order to unpack this whole sperm thing.
Well, I mean,
I
kind
mean,
of.
we do, because this concept that this person's making a claim that if it's true that the sperm that gets to fertilize the egg is random, then everyone would be different. That it sounds to me like he's assuming that, or she, it sounds like a he thought. That's it just sounds like something a dude would think about. That he's assuming that there's only one other universe, essentially.
Now, if there's only
That's what
one
it sounds
other
like.
universe, why would there only be one other universe?
Exactly.
Yeah, that doesn't make sense to me. But then again, I'm not in this guy's head. I don't know what his rules are for alternate universes.
Well, I feel like it doesn't. What he's saying doesn't really. I don't know. I don't know what I'm trying to say.
Well, okay, so this this may be malformed in our ability to really give it appropriate discussion beyond what we've already given it. So,
Well,
in a different
that's why I was
topic,
saying we have to make some assumptions about rules.
yeah. So
If we're
basically, we have to come to an agreement on what we're considering rules for alternate universes to have this discussion.
Yeah.
Right.
So I think that if there are alternate universe, I prefer the model where there are an infinite number of them. But
that's what I would prefer. That's what I would assume.
Where
if you're going to have alternate universes that are based on random chance.
Well, so where I kind of come to that conclusion is I really like the idea that alternate universes spawn from not from chance, but from timeline like timeline forking, or whatever you would call that. So like
yeah, but do you realize how many times the timeline would fork every moment?
That's what I'm saying. So that's exactly my point. We made the decision this morning to get on and try to do this thing live. Now, it's entirely possible that we decided not to, and when we were faced with the option of going live or not going live, one of us decided, I don't want to go live. And at that moment, there's a new universe where we didn't go live.
Okay, so that's there's where the rules can differ, though. That's assuming a timeline only splits if somebody makes a conscious choice to go one way or the other.
Not conscious.
What if it's
any choice?
Okay, any choice. So if it's any choice, if it's and that's why I say chance, because if it's any time that there is the possibility of more than one option happening, then all options happen on different timelines.
Right.
It could be the toaster sets fire when bread's in it, or a cell splits and a DNA mutates or doesn't mutate, and every single part of the DNA chain has that same chance. So
Okay, so
there's that many number of
but
alternate.
you're going into a direction I didn't go, and I was thinking about it while you were talking. So
Okay.
you're talking about DNA. Well, DNA isn't part of a decision making process, or DNA doesn't decide things. It's not a mind, right? So
Right.
so if like I'm holding right now, I'm holding a pen so I can take some notes about what we're doing for editing Lunar. And I could have selected a couple of different pens there, but I am fond of this particular pen, so this is the one that I went with. I could have chosen the other one. There is some alternative universe where I picked the other pen, and
Okay,
that
so
alternate me is an asshole because he doesn't understand the good pens. But I
so at
think
what point
in that
does
model it would mean though that in the absence of minds, so if this universe didn't have minds, there would only be one universe.
But that brings up the question of, at what level is it consciousness? Is it a mind making a choice?
Right. So the difference between a human choosing between pens and a squirrel choosing between acorns.
Exactly.
So
I was going to say dogs, but I mean,
sure.
Same difference. Yeah, exactly. So does a universe split off because an animal made a choice? They still made a choice. It was still in a mind, but was it a mind that recognizes that they're making a choice? So does that make it a valid choice, or does that make it nature? Does does light being a wave and a particle, and the quantum state of, you know, not knowing where a particular light particle is going to land.
Schrodinger's cat.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Schrodinger's cat.
Schrodinger's cat.
The scrotum cat.
The scrot cat. It's our new mascot, Scrot Cat.
Scrot cat. It's a cat that looks like a ball sack.
Yeah.
So, oh god, now we're gonna have to find that and post it somewhere. We need a subreddit, by the way. I'm gonna make that today. So if if you go by conscious choice, then you have to decide what level of consciousness does that choice actually make a difference. But that doesn't make sense to me, because
so I'm in this group of people that I'm increasingly convinced that there's no such thing as free will.
Okay.
So that has a bearing on this conversation, I think, because
absolutely,
because I prefer this particular Pilot Precise V5 RT pen. But why do I prefer it? I didn't choose to prefer this pen. That preference is forced on me, so that I didn't have the will. I didn't free will choose to like this pen. I just do like it. There is some force, whatever that is, that has made me like the experience of writing with this particular type of pen. And that some force that I wasn't in control of. Now it's a small example, but to me, that's an example of, I don't actually have free will when it comes to the choice of pens.
Okay. But now on that same, I guess, topic, if you don't have free will, there is no alternate universes based on chance. If everything is preordained, if everything
Based on
is
chance or by
set,
choice?
or choice.
Because those are distinctly different things.
Okay.
Because if we're talking about universes existing by chance, then we could have alternative universes without minds. But if it's based on choice, then we can only have alternative universes with choice. Is that I screwed that up? But I think do you see what I'm trying to say?
I think I do. So if it's by choice, we would have to have free will in order for alternative universes to exist. If it's by chance,
I
alternative
disagree.
universes can exist without free will.
It's not about choice, or I'm sorry, it's not about in my mind anyway, if alternative universes are a thing and they come into being when a choice is made by a mind, it's irrelevant if free will is involved because the choice was still made. What my point though, or what point is though, is that the experience of making that choice is somewhat dictated by the physics of that universe. So I'm in this universe, the one we're in right now, having this live podcast, and there are things happening in the universe that are influencing the next word I say, all the decisions I'll make for the rest of my life, and so on. And those events are somewhat outside of my control.
Now we're getting into a totally different world though of universes, because if different universes can have different physics, which is entirely possible, but a whole different level of universal theory, multi-universal theory,
multiverse theory. I don't know.
Yeah, multiverse theory. Yeah. Okay, so if different universes can have different physics, then free choice is neither here nor there, because physics helps. If you don't have free will, then physics helps determine the actual choices that you're going to make.
Are you suggesting then that an alternative universe created by a choice made by someone may stop having the same physics that existed at the time the choice was made?
No. That would require a whole different framework from what I'm thinking of different universes.
So in our model, then it's impossible. It seems to be impossible that a universe would exist with alternate physics. Like in the model, particles,
in the framework I'm working with right now, yes.
Yeah, because like it's possible that the particles in some alternative universe would be arranged differently. I guess they would have to be, right? Because a different decision was made. Your brain is made of particles. And so
right, but the physics don't determine how the particles are in place. The physics determine how those particles will react with each other once they're in place. The particles themselves don't make the physics. The physics are the rules that the particles behave by.
Right. So, and that's what I mean. So there's the place where like gravity is repellent, and that's the opposite of our universe, right? So everything just like scatters or whatever. That's not what we're talking about. What we're talking about here is a different arrangement of particles with all the same rules.
Correct.
Right.
At least in the framework of the discussion we're having, yes.
Right.
We could have a completely different discussion that is about multiverses with every multiverse may have totally different physics involved, and I am not even sure I know how I would go about starting to have that conversation. That is
yeah, I mean, really neither of us are educated in this way, so we're kind of just we probably, to someone who knows stuff about this, we probably sound like fucking idiots.
Well, yeah, I mean, unless we're talking about, I don't know, server security, server building.
Yeah, you want to talk
programming.
About like object-oriented design patterns? I'm in.
Yeah, I mean, then you could start to make arguments that we may be subject matter experts in what we're talking about, but we're not here to talk about what we're subject matter experts in. We're here to talk about things we're interested in.
Yeah, exactly. So I guess so. We never really addressed the issue of the whole fertilized egg situation. So now that we have a little bit of framework for how the rules of our alternative universes work.
Okay.
So let's try to tackle that. So the way that the question on Reddit was posed was that the sperm that's chosen to fertilize the egg is random.
Right. In which case that implies that the framework of multiverse that he's using, or she, is a framework which takes into account the random chance of something happening, not just choice. So if a event has any possibility of having not any possibility, it has any percentage of something else happening in that event, there's uh a universe that's split off for that event having happened. And in that case, it would have to be, if there's a 1% chance of something happening, then there would be a universe that 1% chance happened. If there's a 0.001% chance of something happening, then there's a universe that 0.001% chance of something happening happened. So in that framework, every just I don't know what the smallest unit of time is in
it's a
practical
Planck.
Okay.
Planck second.
Yeah,
Is that what it is?
Planck second. Every Planck second, just an uncountable number of universes.
It's called Planck time.
Okay, every Planck time. You said Planck second.
I know. I looked it up. I was correcting myself. It's Planck time.
Okay, so every Planck time, every unit of Planck time, there is an actual uncountable number of universes being created from everything happening in the world, from particles in motion throughout
but we've diverged from the universes that are created by choice.
Correct. Okay. But in the framework that the original statement supposes, it can't be a universe created by choice, because a woman being fertilized by a sperm doesn't have the choice of which individual sperm they're fertilized by.
That's only true if we're talking about a natural way of inseminating, because they can actually choose a specific sperm and a specific egg in the lab.
Yes, they can. I don't believe that the intent of the statement was artificial insemination within a lab.
You said a woman can't pick, and that's not true. She can.
Okay, generally speaking, a woman can't pick.
Okay.
It is conceivable that there are certain circumstances that do allow a woman to pick which sperm fertilizes her egg.
Great.
Not which person's sperm.
This is important.
Which
it's
particular
important.
Sperm.
It's important to know what the meanings of terms are and what we mean by things.
No, yeah, you're absolutely right. It's very important when you're speaking on pretty much any topic. I mean, you have to know what framework you're speaking within. And
well,
that's because
especially when we're talking about these alternative universes, because when you say a woman can't choose the sperm that fertilizes her egg, you're describing a universe where artificial insemination doesn't exist. You see what I mean? So when you're talking about absolutes like that, then you're setting a rule in the framework. This cannot happen, and if it can happen, then it's violating the rule of the framework. So you're right. I'm not disagreeing. Great.
It's funny how we can have a 5-minute conversation about how we're agreeing on the subject.
You mentioned absolutes. I have a question. It's off the topic though, so we can wait.
Well, do we want to shift off the topic? I mean, we've been on this topic for
like
a good,
half an hour.
good amount of time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do
we want to take this moment to pivot?
Sure.
All right. So a different topic.
So do absolute truths exist?
Ooh, that's a very good question.
I feel like intuitively the answer is really simple. If absolute truths exist, so do absolute truths exist? If you say no, the immediate question is that absolutely true?
Is that an absolute truth? Yeah. But if you say yes,
then it's open.
well, yes is the only question that yes is the only answer that can exist, because if you say no, then you're giving an absolute truth to the question of do absolute truths exist?
So the
only answer is yes.
Well, it's not true though, because it's not absolutely true, because what you just did is a false dichotomy. You said that the only other answer is yes, but that's not true. You have the other option of I don't know, maybe, but that's the same thing as I don't know. So, sure. Or at least in this context. So,
okay,
I would like to explore the option of I don't know / maybe / yes. So,
okay.
Can you think of an example of something that is absolutely true? And the first thing my mind goes to is math. 1 + 1 is 2. To me, that seems like it's absolutely true. That if I have...
Until you reach the speed of light.
Well, but quantity doesn't change.
I don't even know the I'm talking out my ass right there. I don't even know the math that supports that statement, if there is any. It's a joke that you see sometimes. 1 + 1 = 2.
Except for extremely large values of 2.
Yeah.
Or 1 rather.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, so can you, other than math, can you think of anything that's absolutely true?
I would say the sun always rises in the east, but...
Okay, but that's false, though. The sun doesn't rise. The earth is rotating.
Okay. The fact is still the same. I mean...
The sun appears to always rise in the east.
Okay, so... Yeah, let's step back from our general pedantic selves for a moment.
It's important. And we're talking about philosophy. It's important.
Yeah, so the sun appears over the eastern horizon every day.
Right.
Due to the rotation of the earth, but still. But that's not a constant, is it?
No.
Because eventually
earth goes away.
That will not be the
case.
Goes away. That's a constant within our lifetime, likely.
But so we could say that today the sun rose in the east because it's up already. So,
right.
It's 10:25
it's up for us.
Yeah, exactly. It's up for us. So we experience the sun rising. So I guess that is an example of an absolute truth. So it sounds to me that maybe the answer to that question is yes. Where people bring up the concept of absolute truths, they're usually talking about spiritual things, like, or at least in my experience, people don't bring up things like absolute truth unless they're talking about deities. And so we kind of get into this world of, Zeus or whoever, whatever God creature existing and giving commands or, performing acts in the world.
Wait, are you about to tell me that Zeus doesn't exist?
No.
Are you about to
I would
be
never.
A heretic?
I would never make a claim like that.
I'm kidding.
Well, I mean that's a real question.
Yeah,
I am not gonna make that claim. I'm not gonna claim the existence or non-existence of any gods because I don't have any evidence one way or the other.
Right, but on the same token, I'm not going to claim the opposite.
Yeah, you can't. You can't. So, leaving the topic of absolute truth, you can't somebody, I don't remember who it was, but somebody gave me this example when I was in college. When somebody makes a claim about something, anything at all, I have 2 keyboards on my desk. That's a claim. I'm claiming to you that there are currently 2 keyboards on my desk. What I'm doing is I'm saying that my desk is guilty of having 2 keyboards on the desk. It's up to me as the prosecutor of desks to provide the evidence.
You're saying your desk is guilty of having 2 keyboards.
Right. So you think about it in terms of courts. So I'm saying that my desk is guilty of having 2 keyboards on it. So now I have to be able to provide compelling evidence for you to believe it. The burden of proof is on me. Now that's innocuous. You don't give a crap if I have 2 keyboards on my desk. If I were to say something like, I have a mythical dragon in my basement and he tells me things, absolute truths about the universe and about ways that I'm supposed to live my life and the way that you're supposed to live your life, or there are major consequences, he's going to burn you alive and then eat you, right? You are going to immediately be skeptical of that conversation because as far as you're aware, there's no such thing as mythical dragons. Right. I probably don't have a dragon. Like, you're going to be like, I think this person's insane. Right. So now what I've done here, like, at some point we have to prosecute that. We have to say, okay, provide me the compelling evidence for your dragon and that it speaks to you and that it knows absolute truths about the universe and that those absolute truths matter in some kind of moral or ethical way. So then we have to break all of those things up for you to be able to make a decision on whether or not you should believe my mythical dragon.
But then you have to agree, and only because you mentioned morality, you have to agree that there's something that specifically defines what is and is not moral for all people. Or at least, I guess it could be.
But it doesn't matter.
What the dragon judges moral.
The dragon is the one that's making the decision there.
Right. So he would apply, or she would apply, whatever it considers to be the morally just decision across all people.
Right.
Absolutely, without any question of context.
Right. And so, I'm the follower of this particular dragon because
that's an asshole dragon.
Because he's in my basement, right? And so
right,
I have this dragon, and he's told me about ways that I'm to live my life, and he has threatened your life because you don't live in the way that this dragon sees fit.
Well, your dragon's an asshole, John.
Okay, great. And so my asshole dragon says, you should live your life differently than you do, and if you don't, then this litany of terrible things will happen to you along the way. And so now I've been sent out. The dragon has told me to leverage his justice upon your life. So I then come to you and I give you the opportunity to accept my dragon as the moral authority, and you have to then look at me and hear the things that I'm saying, these wacky, crazy things I'm saying about this dragon that I have. And you have to then say, is this true? How do you then figure it out? I'm coming to you saying that on penalty of terrible, torturous death, you have to accept that the things that my dragon is saying are true. And you have to change your life.
Because you tell me that the dragon
just on my
lives
word
in your basement, just on your word.
Yeah. And so now
I'd ask you for proof of that dragon. I mean,
yeah. Well, so I'm saying that I'm guilty of having this mythical dragon, and this mythical dragon is guilty of perfect knowledge, absolute truth, moral authority, and all of this stuff. So it's on me to provide you the evidence. Like, obviously you're not going to believe this shit. I'm going to come to you and say my dragon, blah, blah. You're going to be like, that's ridiculous. tell me more about your dragon. Prove to me there's a dragon.
Right.
Why don't people do that for religion? It's exactly the same thing.
That is correct. It is exactly the same thing.
Religion immediately gets a pass. We say, somebody comes knocking on my door and says that they have a magical friend that lived thousands of years ago and knows what's best for my life. And when I say, how do you know that? They just say, well, I have a feeling, or I read it in an ancient book written by illiterate Iron Age peasants and blah, blah, blah. They say all this stuff, but that's not evidence. That's not compelling evidence for anyone. That wouldn't hold up.
Right. But then an argument that's used, and technically it's a valid argument. You can't prove a negative. You can't prove he's not there.
But that no one made that claim. We're talking about prosecuting claims. The claim is that there exists a magical, mythical dragon that has perfect knowledge, knows the absolute truths of the universe, and has moral authority.
Well, let's
it's not it's never on the defendant. It's not on the defendant. Or rather, it's not on me to prove that your statement is wrong. It's on you to prove that your statement is right.
Well, that's how it works in a court of law.
And that's how evidence for anything should be handled. Everything. There isn't a scenario except religion where people handle evidence that way.
Correct. But here's where the pass is given. All the evidence is in the afterlife.
That's nonsense.
That's what they're counting on is.
Well, but that's nonsense.
For you to be afraid of not being able to be satisfied in your afterlife.
So it's fear. That
it's fear.
I'm supposed to believe. Fear. I'm supposed to believe the person coming and knocking on my door to tell me about their magical mythical dragon with perfect knowledge.
Well, why else would I follow what your magical mythical dragon is telling me to do, other than the fear of him coming and doing something bad to me now?
Right. That's my point. It's partly my point.
Yeah. Well, instead of the now part, they're just shifting that and going, well, my magical mythical dragon, he's there and he doesn't like how you live currently, but you can change. But if you don't change, he's not going to do anything to you right now. What he'll do is when you pass away, instead of being able to do whatever you could do afterwards, when you pass away, you're going to live on and he's going to destroy you over and over again.
But see that, and that's
once you live on.
But it's like there's a series of claims that come up, and then when you say, okay, support those claims, there are more claims made without any kind of compelling reason to believe them. And so this is a problem that I feel like religion has. Now, don't get me wrong. I grew up in the church, right? Like I spent a lot of time in church and was leader in a youth group and led Bible studies and, all of this stuff. So I know what it's like coming from that side of the fence here, that I have been in this position where someone has come to me, I went to them with Jesus is Lord, change your life. And then they respond to me with this mythical dragon thing, and I don't have a response. That's a compelling argument to me. This makes a whole lot of sense. I couldn't support anything I was saying with any kind of evidence that should compel anyone to believe it. Other than if you don't, you'll have a horrible, torturous infinity. or with some other unsubstantiated nonsense. So it seems I'm trying to figure out how to what is the way to handle that. I want you to believe and act a certain way based on something that I believe. How do I convince you of that? That even happens. The same thing happens with the difference between Republicans and Democrats. One side of that fence says that gays should be high armed and married, and the other side of the fence just says no gays. So, like give everyone guns.
Wait a second. Yeah.
No gays. Well, how are you people the moral authority here? And where are you getting that information? Both sides need it. Like, show me why gays should be able to get married. And side A, show me why gays should be able to get married. Side B, show me why gays shouldn't be able to get married.
Right.
Because both of them are making claims. And then when you say, explain that to me, they can't. They don't.
So wait a sec. Hold on, just a second. We've set up two rules on the podcast before we started.
Shut up. I know. I can't talk about stuff without getting into this. I just can't. It's not in me.
So this episode is going to be called the episode where we break the rules right off the bat.
Maybe this episode never gets published. We just do another one and we call that one episode 2.
Oh no, this is live already.
Yeah, this
is getting published.
Yeah.
It's okay. We'll break the rules, but we'll keep the rules. Rules are made to be broken.
But I mean,
right?
I haven't said what my opinion is, other than to say
that's true.
Other than to say that I find this mythical dragon concept compelling. I find that interesting, and I don't know how to argue against it. So that's what I was hoping to get from you is how because the mythical dragon thing exists no matter what we're talking about. I just happen to take it down the religion path, but it could be anything. It could be like I said, the keyboards on my desk. My desk is guilty of having keyboards on it. Or
no, if you lived in a dark cave and weren't able to get out of that cave, but you said there's sunlight outside of this environment that I'm in, and you're talking to somebody else who has only lived in that dark cave with you. Neither one of you had seen sunlight, but there's sunlight outside. Somehow you know about it. Maybe you felt the warmth through a particularly thin part of the cave, but no lights coming through. So you surmise that there's something out there that creates that, and you don't exactly know the concept of light, but you've figured out there's something out there that's warm and more comfortable than what you're in. So you're telling your friend that's been in this situation for both of your entire lives. And you tell your friend there's this warmth, there's this light that I know that's there. And your friend goes, "What are you talking about? This is all there is.
How do you know that?
This area. How do you know that?"
Yeah, the cave is guilty of existing in a place where there is an outside, and the outside is guilty of having some kind of warm light feature.
Right. This area on over here feels kind of warmer. Well, of course it does. You put your hand over there all the time. Well, yeah, because it's warm, but your body is warming the rock. You put your hand there all the time. There's no way that either of them can prove that there is or is not light or warmth outside the cave. But one of them insists that there is, and
so that's but now in that situation, the person making that claim is being intellectually dishonest. That person should, and this is something that I've had to learn how to do and didn't realize I needed to learn how to do it until somewhat recently, that I need to be able to have the level of introspection that person in the cave feeling the warmth on the wall doesn't have. That person should be like, I think there's something out here, but I don't know that. So when I go to my cave dwelling friend, I shouldn't make the claim that it is something that I can't prove, because he doesn't even know it. That person doesn't actually know what's on the other side.
Now that is a problem that I have with religions in general, is somebody coming up to me and telling me this is how you should act because this is definitely a thing. There's this being that is beyond anything that you can sense, that is greater than you, greater than all of us. And this being says that we need to act this way. And
Right.
it's like, well, and exactly what you said earlier. Well, did did the being speak to you? Well, no, but I know that the being wants this. Well, how do you know? Well, I read this book that I have no way to really authenticate.
Well,
But I
and
read this book.
well, let's back up though. So you said, well, did the dragon speak to you? And the answer was, well, no. Well, let's change it. Let's say that he did. What changes there? Nothing.
And okay, so there are people who claim that they've had some experience where they've felt the Holy Spirit speaking to them.
Yeah.
And not
I
to
was one of
say
those
that they
people.
didn't. Okay. So I'm not gonna claim that they didn't have an authentic experience. I will not claim that. They
Right.
can't prove to me that they did have it, but they had it. So I'm not gonna sit there and tell them that their experience was false.
Right.
But on the same token, I cannot then turn around and use their personal experience that they have no proof of as claim to support what they're trying to tell me is the correct way.
Yeah,
Now,
that's not evidence for you. That was evidence for them. That
exactly.
because there is no religious experience that a person can have that can provide evidence to someone else.
Now, am I saying
there's
that because I haven't personally seen any evidence that I don't pragmatically believe it or that I do pragmatically believe it? I'm not making that statement either way here.
right.
But
Me either.
in the context of conversation and on the subject of proof and proving a theory or an existence or anything like that, that it can be said that, that is something that nobody's in within our lifespan, whether it's whether the stories in the Bible are absolutely true and everything happened 2004 and 6,000 years ago exactly as it's written is another story. Now, it's a story that physical evidence today tells us is not true within, at least within the time span and with the exact wording laid down in the
Right.
Bible itself. And furthermore, in the older works, and I don't remember what the Old Testament is called in the Jewish religion,
Torah? Is
but
that the Torah?
yeah, okay, the Torah, yeah. So, or in the Torah, or in any other religious book within that, that pantheon of religion. Um, Likewise, any other myth that other religions have, it's there's events described in the myth that in myths that may be parts of it may be able to be substantiated with evidence today,
Right.
and most of it, and specifically the specific happenings of it, will never be able to be substantiated today. Some of it can be proved that at least it didn't happen where or necessarily when it's written about that it happened. But then along those same lines, just because it didn't happen where or when the text says it happened, also doesn't necessarily mean that it didn't happen in some way, shape, or form. Just because a myth has been created around an event and that myth may have changed to emphasize certain parts of an event doesn't mean that the myth is at its core incorrect. It is wrong, but it's not necessarily incorrect. Do you understand what I
Yeah, I
mean?
think so. I think I see what you're saying, because it's
So
like the you know, saying that I'm trying not to beat up on any one particular religion here, but the only example
right.
I'm getting right now is the concept of Jesus. So the uh Jesus may have existed, he may not have existed. You ask 10 experts and you're going to get 10 different answers.
Right.
You're gonna
And
get two different answers there.
the point is, though, that we can't go back and see with our own eyes or with any kind of recording equipment that this one man walked the earth at a very particular time and in very particular spots. We have no way to go back and record that today.
Well, right, but so kind of I guess what I was trying to say is, um, to kind of illustrate your point, it may be that Jesus existed and that person was a religious leader, but he may not have actually been divine, but later on he was given divinity in his followers' books. So that's an example of like the myth says that, say myth, air quotes here, the myth says that there was a divine Jesus, but the truth may be that there was a Jesus.
Well, I mean, I
Doesn't
could
that
point out a couple of Jesuses today, but
well, yeah, exactly.
they're
Yeah,
not
like I said, I'm not
divine.
trying to beat up on any one religion. I'm just using it like the
They go by Jesus today, but I mean,
well, we have like the Dalai Lama exists today. Who you can go to him and meet him. Like he's a physical person that exists in the real world. But if we were to just stop having Dalai Lamas and any Buddhists that followed the Dalai Lama today would write great things about him, and then in 50 years, those great things would probably be inflated a little bit. And then 100 years, they'll be inflated a little more. And then in 2000 years, you've got this magical hovering person, like he would probably be elevated to this magical type of person over time.
in at least in theory. I mean, granted, we're not saying any of that is well, especially with today. One of the problems that
Well,
exists
that
with
happened to George Washington. That dude was a violent, murderous rapist. And we not George Washington, Christopher Columbus.
oh yeah,
Columbus and his
yeah.
crew were awful people. They came over here for reasons that I applaud them for, but they came here and did some fucked up shit. But you have to read the right book to learn that. You, as a kid, you're not told all that. You're just told that, oh, Christopher Columbus sailed the ocean blue, and he came over, and now we have America and guns, and I say that like I'm against gun ownership, but I have my own arsenal here. Anyway, that happened with him.
Yeah, that's kind of what I was laughing about.
Yeah, we're not that far removed from that story, and it's already to the point where it's not the story that you're told as a kid isn't the whole truth anyway.
Well, true. And we're able to go back and at this point realize that and find texts that chronicle more truly what he was actually like, and we're able to pinpoint, hey, this person wanted to improve the life conditions for Italian Americans, and so he made Christopher Columbus more of a folk hero than he really probably should have done, and
Right.
and we can backtrack that, and we can find that, but we can only backtrack that and find that because the level of literacy that went into the records of Christopher Columbus's voyages and antics were actually fairly literate records that, even though the English language wasn't actually fully codified in grammar, and it's kind of hard to read stuff from back then, even from 100 or 200 years after that, it's still kind of hard to read some things because a lot of word forms weren't set in a codified way. I mean,
Yeah.
you would have 15 different spellings for thought.
Yeah.
But
The word color.
um yeah, or color.
Color.
Um so yeah, at that point, we can still go back and we can find more of the truth. And we may not even still be able to find the whole truth there. And in fact, for anybody's individual life, I would hope that we'll never be able to go back and find the whole truth minute for minute from what everybody's life was. I say I hope because I have no idea how much the government is listening into what we're saying right now. But um how close the spy drones are and seeing me with my head, of course, then again I'm broadcasting my video to you, so they've
Yeah,
got that.
well, you're
Anyways,
broadcasting your video to me, and then I'm broadcasting our audio to the entire planet.
right. So I mean,
anyone with
right
the internet
now,
connection
minute
can
for
hear us
minute,
right now.
anybody can tell what we're doing.
Right.
But what what we can't do is go back and get anything near the resolution of activity for Christopher Columbus that we could get for someone today. And even less so the further back you go, especially when you get to a point where writings are done only by priests or
Or writings
legends
are
are
reading,
handed.
like
Yeah, writing, it's not even writings, it's just word of mouth
all of your
passed from.
education came from someone else, that their interpretation, their understanding of it
Absolutely.
came to you as fact.
The times of Plato, everything that we've got from Plato isn't from Plato's hand. It's from somebody
Secondhand,
who
yeah.
heard what Plato said
Right.
and wrote it down later. And it wasn't from Plato, it was from some random guy that had heard what Plato said from the guy who taught him. And we don't know what Plato said. We don't know if he was a blithering drunk idiot on a barely able to stand on a knob on the ground and just ranting just stupid stuff and
Stand on a
people
knob.
a
What the
little a
hell
little
does that
bump.
mean? Like a knob hill?
Yeah. Yeah.
Stand on a knob.
Okay.
It's like you went back in time to like Plato's era, so you
And
can.
instead of him standing on a regal little hill speaking out to a crowd, there's like this bump in the pavement that he's standing on.
Yeah.
That he thinks he's on his platform and he's just yelling at people drunkenly going by him. We don't know.
little did we know Plato was the second gunman on the grassy knoll.
Exactly.
The grassy knob.
So but the point is that once you get past a certain level of literacy, it becomes much harder to validate anything that's written, whether it's sacred texts, and again, not pointing out the Quran, the Bible, any text. I don't care what religion. There's no way to validate it.
Yeah, well,
Because
and then I agree with you. There are people who try to validate them. And this is another thing that gets under my skin. You can find experts on all manner of things related to religion. You can find experts for every religion under the sun, and those people, when you put them all together, still disagree on what things mean or what the truth behind things were. And so, like, forget the whole magical mythical dragon thing. Let's just talk about that. If somebody comes to you with any religion, any belief system at all, really, the religion or otherwise, and says that they have figured out some truth about it or whatever, and that you should believe it, or it should occupy space in your mind. But then all of the experts disagree about its origins. What are you supposed to do with that information? And specifically with religions, there's just two guys that come to mind right now: Richard Carrier and Bart Ehrman. Both of them are Christian biblical scholars. They have devoted their lives to studying biblical history. They know a great deal about the original manuscripts, and both of them, they have the exact same knowledge base. Essentially, they have similar experience. I think Richard Carrier is maybe a little younger than Bart Ehrman. I'm not sure, but they both have devoted their lives to studying biblical stuff, and they come to different conclusions on whether or not Jesus existed. So what am I supposed to do? And I realize that's just two people, but the bulk of Christian experts fall on different sides of each different concept. Whether Jesus existed, whether Jesus was divine, whether the flood happened in the Old Testament. So I don't have the interest or time to devote the rest of my life to studying this stuff. And it seems to be that there is a lot of evidence to suggest that even if I did, I could still be wrong.
Absolutely.
So the truth about any religion is entirely hidden from me.
So does the truth matter?
Well, yeah, because those books,
will you ever find the truth?
I'm just illustrating a point here that
right.
Generally in the US, at least in the US, I've never left the country. At least in the US, the concept of Christianity is peace and love and just this hippie idea of loving each other and loving your neighbor. Yeah, today. And when you bring up things like the Crusades, people get all uppity. They're like, it's a different time and blah, blah. But this is my point.
It's a different time, but it's supposed to be the exact same text. It's supposed to be the same message. So how does the message change just given the time? Because that's if it's a continuous message and it means the same thing throughout history, then it shouldn't be changing throughout time. It should be constant throughout time.
Right. And it seems to me that it should be accessible by all intellects. And these people who devote their lives to this kind of study end up with PhDs on the topic. And I know people who are not capable of getting a PhD. Like they're just, I'm probably one of them. That there are people who aren't intellectually capable of that level of study. And so when a book is telling you, the Bible, any religious text is telling you to live your life a certain way, you don't have the time or skill to vet that information yourself. There is no physical evidence that anyone can provide you that it is actually true. What are you supposed to do? You just have to accept it. And then how do you know which one? You might as well throw a dart.
That's kind of the thing is you find out as much about it as possible and you align what your personal beliefs and morality system is with what agrees most with it. And unfortunately, in my opinion, that's not necessarily the best way to make decisions either, because then you're in a echo tunnel of opinions, right? Yeah. If nothing you experience challenges what you believe, then it's easy to believe what you believe, and it's not necessarily worthwhile believing that. I'm not saying it's not worthwhile. I'm saying it's not necessarily worthwhile.
Right.
And that's one of the things that is a pitfall in a belief structure too. An unprovable belief structure is that if you can't prove it, and there's several variations of it, and you go with the one that most closely fits in with your personal narrative, then once you're in that group, all you hear is what closely fits in with your narrative, and what little differences there might be, you'll probably eventually migrate your personal narrative to take into account those differences or at least justify them. And you'll never challenge yourself because then you're being reinforced. And when you come up against something that goes against your what these beliefs that you set up, and you've got this constant echo tunnel reinforcing these beliefs, when you come up to something that contradicts these beliefs, your only tool is to deny it and not
Right. And
actually
not
try and
inspect
learn
it.
about it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And similar to a point I made earlier. We, the, you gave the example of those cave dwellers. The one that claimed to feel the warmth on the wall was intellectually dishonest to themselves, to go to that wall and then feel the warmth. The only thing I could do in that case would be to go to my cave dwelling partner and say, I feel like there's warmth here. Can you verify it?
Right.
You can't then make the jump that there is light and sun outside. Even though you may feel that, you may think, that happens in science. You've got scientists that they kind of have a gut feeling about something that, I feel that if I add A, B, and C together, I'm going to come up with this.
I'm going to get this result if I do the experiment.
That's called a hypothesis. My hypothesis is blank.
But
I need to,
when you do the experiment specifically so you get that result, not do the experiment regardless
falsify.
of what. Yeah.
But then
that doesn't really fit the cave dweller analogy.
I think it does,
though.
I think it does, because what they would do then is say, I feel like there's warmth here, and then in my mind that I haven't shared with you, I'm thinking, there must be a source of heat on the other side of this. I may feel the warmth on the wall and think to myself that there is warmth coming in from outside. But my first experiment is to make sure that I'm not the only one experiencing this. So I have you come over. Do you feel the warmth here? And you say, yes. Okay. My hypothesis is there's a source of warmth on the other side of this wall.
Right. And that's in a scientific method, that's how it should be. And I would say that in all things, that's how it should be. But as we discussed earlier, that's setting down an absolute, and absolutes don't necessarily exist.
I don't think I followed you. How that's setting up an absolute.
That's what's called a callback.
How is that setting up an absolute?
If you say that in all things, you should always follow the scientific method.
Oh,
in all
I
things.
See.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I think I'm okay with absolutes.
Well, and I'm not necessarily okay with absolutes. And this may stem from me being in IT, where by all imaginations, when you set up a process and then you hit the on switch, that process should work every time you hit that on switch. And then you hit that on switch and then the process doesn't work. And you check everything over, everything is absolutely right. And you go, well, that was supposed to work. By God, that was absolutely supposed to work. So you turn the switch off and then you press it on again, and then it works. And it's like, wait a second. I did not change anything in this system. I checked and verified that everything was set up correctly in the system. I did not change anything. The first time that it was supposed to work, it did not work. Now I turned the system off and then turned it back on, and the second time it worked just fine. What's the difference? There's no difference.
There was a difference.
One time
though.
it worked, and
that's not how computers work, though.
Yeah,
there was a
exactly.
Difference.
There was a difference somewhere. I can't see what the difference is. I have no way to tell what the difference was. Maybe the power wasn't properly regulated the first time I turned it on, and there was just happened to be a dip at the wrong time, and it just wouldn't allow the system to start because a component errored out. I can't see that. And that is a change in the process that I'm unaware of. But it's also a change that, I mean, I have no way to expect and I can't see. So it's like, to my vantage point, nothing has changed.
Well, or you do have the ability to see those things. You just didn't know to check it. You didn't know to look there. Like I
didn't have
this.
the tools set up to be able to see it at the time.
Yeah. I run into this problem and with programming where you think you've accommodated every eventuality, but in reality, that isn't the case. You run your code and it runs great 404,311 times, but that 404,312th time it crashes and brings some production system down for 6 hours because you forgot to carry the one.
Because some user clicked up in the upper right-hand corner and while holding the mouse button made a circular gesture, which should never ever happen under any condition because there's nothing up in that corner. But for some reason, that motion while the button is held down causes the whole system to crash.
Yeah.
We've hit our
We didn't talk
original
about if
episode
eggs are the
length goal.
devil though.
No, we didn't. Do we want to make a bonus section
topic.
to the bonus topic?
Bonus
All right.
topic.
Bonus
Are
topic.
eggs the devil? I'm going to go yes.
Devil. They are absolutely the devil. To me, they smell and taste like wet dog hair. Nobody else seems to understand that. Everybody that I tell that is like, what are you talking about? Except for my oldest son who agrees with me. But to me, they smell and taste like wet dog hair and do vile things to my body.
Objectively, you're both wrong, but subjectively, I can't say anything about that.
Eggs are the devil.
Clearly.
So.
All right. I'm glad we hit that topic.
I think we wrapped that topic. Yeah. Bonus topic done. Eggs are the devil. We have crossed that off our topics list. We've gotten a couple of extra topics in today. We still haven't finished our topics list, so I guess there's going to be another episode.
Was there another topic on there?
We've got two more topics that are carried over from I updated the document.
Oh, so, I only saw two on there when I checked.
Yeah, I updated the document, put the two topics we did not cover last episode, which is AI discussion and are we in a simulation?
Well, I mean, I've got nothing going on. If you want to keep talking, we can talk about it.
Well, I mean, then we don't have anything for our next show yet.
Yeah, but I really enjoy this. I don't want to stop. The more we do this, the better we'll get at it. So I kind of want to keep going.
I feel like we keep going just while we've not got the audience and we're wide open in what we can do.
Yeah, kind of. I would like a break though. I'd like to get some more coffee and maybe run to the restroom. I could start some music. Do a little break.
Yeah, I've got some Chick-fil-A breakfast fillets sitting next to me that are begging to be eaten, so I would like a break too.
All right. Well, let's take a break.
You might have seen me eating a sausage biscuit away from the mic while we were going earlier. Yeah, we're definitely gonna have to cut some content out of this one.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay.
But yeah, let's take a break and I'll put some music on. And yeah, let's go break. We'll be back in 5.